Hi, welcome everyone to this week's live stream. I have actually not done a live stream in a couple of weeks, and the reason for that is that I have been traveling. But I'm so happy to be back, and we're going to talk about something amazing that I have and Josephine have coming up in, I think it's like 3 weeks from now or 2 weeks from now. So welcome, Josephine. We have Josephine Banner with us, and we are going to talk about how we generated 350 organic leads for her masterclass in just 3 weeks. Going to talk around what the kind of three biggest reason for that, the three keys to how we generated this amount of leads. So welcome, Josephine. Can you share a little bit about you? I guess we have a lot of new people coming in here. So can you share a little bit about who you are, who you help, and what it is that you do?
Yes. Hi, Angela, and thank you so much for letting me be sharing this room with you today. So my name is Josephine Warner. I'm a former corporate executive who turned entrepreneur and business growth strategist. And I help my clients to build and optimize their offers. And that is kind of the key what I'm doing now. And I'm using, since we're here today, I'm using webinars to build like the know, like, and trust for me and my business too. So I'm really happy to be able to share what our latest learning on this.
Yeah, and one thing that I kind of want to just go back to when we talk about webinars. So you have done a lot of virtual events. So I help my clients build virtual events. We do masterclasses, webinars, challenges, live launches. It doesn't matter what you call them, okay? You can have a 5-day masterclass and you can have a 1-hour masterclass. So but it's a virtual events where you build like, know, and trust. You show up live, you speak to your audience, and you convert the audience. So you have a lot of experience from that, right? Because that is the way that you have been selling a lot of your offers, even in the past before we started working together, right?
Yeah, so I've done 5-day, some people call them challenges, boot camps, whatever. Sometimes I call them workshops or master classes. It is where you have a free, or we use the free version of events. And to kind of build this, you share things, and we will go more into that. But so I've done the 5 days, 4 days, 3 days. And this last time we actually just did 1 hour. And I must say that the 1 hour was by far my most successful one. Not only from, the number of signups and new clients that we got, but also from an energy perspective. I really love being in this room, but it's also a lot of kind of work around it. And that is also why having the possibility to just have a 1-hour masterclass or a webinar where you connect, build that know, like, and trust in such a short period of time, and you get an amazing sign up afterwards. I mean, that is really cool. So, and I've had really bad launches too. I've had like launches that just had a few signups, launches that didn't have one single client, and then you do a lot of work for very little or no return at all. But even those where you fail, you learn from them too. But this one that we are going to look into, that we are going to deep dive a little bit more into, that is one of our most successful ones. And I think that there are so many learnings in that one. And that is why I'm so happy that we get to share that today.
Yeah, and one thing that is important for everyone that is listening. So we build signature masterclass, signature events. We do not change and kind of create an event every month, a different kind of event. So we built one event and we run it over and over, because I strongly believe that the more you do it, the better it become, right? Because you can show up, you know what you're going to talk about, you show up with more energy, you show up with more confidence, etc., etc. So one thing that is important when we talk about this is that the events that you have been running, those have also been signatures. One event selling one offer over and over and over. But the one that we're going to talk about today, that is why this is so interesting, and why this is your result from this one is massive, because it was a new offer and it was a new masterclass, a new webinar masterclass. It was the first time you run it, and it was the first time selling this offer. So the result that we got, the 350 organic signups that we got, that is just going to increase. That is why this is actually the first time you did it, the first time you talked about this subject or this topic that you run your masterclass, and the first time we did lead generation for this, and the first time you sold that offer to the audience. So I want you to kind of have that in back of your mind when we talk about this, because of course, the more you run it, the higher it's going to be. And having this kind of result, 350 sign up for the absolute first time, and also closing a lot of clients from that workshop was fantastic, right? So we're going to talk about today specific about how to fill a masterclass, a virtual event or a webinar. And next week, we're going to go into, because this is going to be a two-part, we're going to go into how to actually build the presentation, how we kind of have seen the market change and why the old ways of doing webinars and events just doesn't work anymore. Okay, so make sure that you block the calendar for next week and watch that video as well. But today is all about how to fill it. And since you mentioned it, the 1 hour, you run 1 hour one day. Why I love it so much is that you don't need so much time to actually fill it. So we did three weeks of lead generation for this one, and that is kind of a long period of lead generation for just 1 hour. But since it was the first time, we needed some time to make sure that the message was kind of working, right? So because we have done webinars where we did 5 days of signups or 10 days of lead generation, right? You can have a really short period of time because you don't need so many people. But one thing that I mentioned, one of the keys that I wanted to talk to you about is, of course, the message, because that is a part of what you work with as well with your client, to get the message right, to have really clarity around the message that you put out in the world. So can you share a little bit about the message, why that is so important when doing lead generation for actually anything, but now we talk about webinars.
Yeah. So, well, let's first starting by thinking, like, before we build or create anything, be it a webinar, be it a masterclass, be it a workshop, or be it an offer, if we don't really know if there is anyone who really wants this, we shouldn't do anything, right? Don't even try to go out there and build a course or a webinar if you don't even know that there is anyone interested in this, or anyone who really wants and needs this. And as you said, Angela, this was a totally new webinar. We were thinking of a totally new offer after it, but we hadn't built any of these things because we didn't know, was this just something that you and I thought? Was this something, because I had gotten like people asking me, well, you need to teach me this, you need to teach me that. And I was like, well, let's see if there is more than just my friends and family who are interested in this. And that is so important, that you get kind of like a little bit like an external confirmation that it's not just you who think that, oh, this could be a great idea. I bet that people want to learn more about energy or more about burnout prevention or whatever it might be. So to go out there and ask people, is this something that you would really be interested in? And if so, in what way? So setting the messaging, like, and tweaking the messaging, making sure that that really hits kind of like what people really want and need, that is so key. And I think that is one of that is kind of like the first indication when we set, I think the first target we set, it would be really good if we could get like 200 signups for this masterclass. And when we saw that the messaging, like, really kind of, we got so many signups already very early on to this masterclass, and we were like, oh my gosh, we just really nailed the messaging. And I think that is so key.
We really nailed the message. And one thing also is that there will always be kind of a trial and error, but the more you understand your dream client, the way that they speak and actually use the words that they use. So we do not talk over our dream. It's the sun coming in here. So soon I need to start moving. But so we don't speak over our dream client's head and use words that they just don't use themselves. So, but the more you know, the less the trial and error is going to be. And we did nothing. We didn't start changing anything. We just run with what we had. And the more we actually saw that we nailed it, right? We really nailed it. Now we know we do not need to kind of clarify anything of the message to the next cycle, right? That is totally, it worked, we nailed it, right? But it could also be that we saw afterwards, okay, something was a little bit off here. Maybe we're using words that they don't use, and we needed to kind of tweak it to the next time. That is why the signature is so important. We're not going to, just because the message might have felt off, we don't throw it out the window and start over. Worst thing that you can do. That is why it's so key to understand these kind of key components so you can identify and do small tweaks the next time. But yes, the message, we nailed it, right? Because you used exactly the words that your dream client was speaking, the same words. And of course, it kind of, yeah, we just saw the conversion rate just boomed after a couple of days. So message was one thing. The other key components that I believe was one of the reasons it was so successful is consistency. And I know that everybody told, oh, you need to be consistent, but we actually have some examples. So because consistency is not only about you kind of showing up, it's also about consistency in the message. We didn't do any changes, we just kept with what we had and just spoke about the same thing over, but also consistency in showing up and how we posted and where we posted, right? So can you share a little bit also about the consistency part of the lead generation we did for this masterclass, how that kind of maybe felt different from the last times? And of course, we did lead generation as well. So can you share a little bit about that? Because I think the word consistency is kind of, yeah, I know I need to be consistent, but we can actually talk a little bit about how consistent we actually was, right?
Mm-hmm. And I also think it's important to remember that when we talk about consistency, it's not only about kind of like posting on Instagram, posting on Facebook, or posting on LinkedIn. It is also about inviting people to your masterclass or to your webinar. Because if you just you post once and then you don't really dare to invite them to join the webinar, no one is going to say, yeah, let me know what it is that you're talking about. You really need to be crystal clear about, this is what we're doing, here we are inviting you, and to kind of continuously invite them. You were way more consistent than I was on Facebook, for example, and we could see that there were like, from your side, there were many leads coming in from Facebook, and from my side, there were more leads coming in from LinkedIn, for example, because I'm more active on LinkedIn. And that is also very key. So if you know that, well, LinkedIn is my platform or Facebook is my platform, but to make sure that you are then really consistent, and you might need to adjust them, go back to the messaging, you might need to adjust the messaging to that particular platform. So it's like adding the consistency, inviting people consistently to your webinar or to your masterclass, and not only on social media, also on your email list. Because remember this, when you're doing a masterclass or when you're doing a webinar or whatever it might be, you're also building your email list. Make sure you're consistent in kind of the communication with them too, to invite them, but also those that have registered for it. Make sure you continue to nurture them. Don't just like let people sign up and then they don't hear anything from you until the day that you run the webinar. You're like, woohoo, now I'm here, right? So really remember the consistency from social media perspective, inviting people, nurturing people over and over and over again.
The thing that I can kind of see a lot, and that is, of course, when we study online, or if I speak to myself, if I go back and look how I have done it and some clients, is that we want this big result from our masterclass. We want 100 signups, we want 50 show ups, we want etc. We want a lot of stuff. But our energy to get that doesn't match it. So we are not consistent in posting. So what happens is that we talk about our masterclass a couple of times. And then when we run the masterclass, we get bummed and we get upset when nobody showed up. It just doesn't make any sense. Because if you want people to show up to your masterclass, let's say your masterclass is a party, and you must invite people. Nobody's just going to show up without you inviting them. And doing posts online on social media, that is one way of inviting them. Invite your email list, like Josephine talked about, that is one way. And one thing that you absolutely need to do is step out of your own way and say, okay, I can only invite my email list once, otherwise they will feel like I'm doing this or that. No, it needs to be consistent. So and we're going to talk, so at the end of this video, I'm going to invite you to, I'm running a training around this, and we're going to dig more deep into that, because that is one of the biggest reasons why I see people do not generate leads. They stand in their own way. They are not consistent with their messaging. They are not consistent in inviting the email list, and they're not consistent in nurturing the ones that actually showed up. They're more worried about the people that are not there instead of actually engaging the people that are there. So, but we don't have the time to, because I have a lot of things to say about that. So, it's like one of the key things in this was of course, the nurturing process for the ones that actually signed up, but also the consistency in the way that you posted, the message that you had, the platform that you were on. You were consistent, since your biggest audience is on LinkedIn. You were consistent. You consistently posted on LinkedIn, and I, of course, is more on Facebook, so I consistently. So overall, the consistency in everything that we did, right? So we have the message was one key point. The consistency was another. And the third one that I want to talk a little bit about, when I say webinars to people, or I say virtual event or launches, whatever, they feel like, oh my God, how complicated. I need 500 slides. I need to buy a platform that runs webinars or whatever they need. And I need so many things. When in reality, this is the most simple strategy that you can do. And we really focused on simplicity for your masterclass, right? So it was everything from when we started inviting people to the execution and the sales, everything run on simplicity. So one thing, if we look back to the lead generation, and was the landing page, right? The landing page and the post online and the emails. So can you share a little bit about the kind of different, how simple we actually did this compared to other things that we have done?
So one thing where you might lose people is when you have a disconnect between the messaging in your emails or in your post, and then you have the landing page, which has a totally different messaging, a totally different look and feel. So what the first thing we made sure was that the look and feel, the messaging is exactly the same. Kind of like no kind of strange things, not adding anything new on the landing page that we didn't talk about in the messaging, and vice versa. Right? So really make sure that people who clicked on the landing page from the social media post or the email also kind of recognize themselves when they clicked on the landing page. And the landing page itself is super simple language. We use the language that people had given to us, not trying to overcomplicate it or not trying to sound fancier than it is. So super simple landing page, super simple language. And the landing page itself is kind of the simplest thing. Sometimes you see, like, even for webinars, even for free webinars, you see like super long landing pages. But we only had like super simple, the banner that you have, a couple of information about it, a couple of testimonials, because people might not know me or who I am, since it was my masterclass, to make sure that I come, the people kind of have a trust in me. So why should they spend time with me? So that's it, kind of like no more, no less, and that's it, right?
So if we look at kind of summarize it, is to make sure that it's really, really, really easy for people to sign up. Yeah. Because as soon as you create friction, you lose them. And I have been on landing pages where you can't sign up the first thing that you do. You need to start scrolling. And you lose them right away, because some people, you need to make it really simple to sign up. Simple to click, simple to understand, simple to sign up. Simplicity. We make it complicated. Okay. We are the ones that make this complicated. It's not complicated. It's really, really simple. But then also when it comes to the simplicity of how we run it, we're going to talk about the presentation next week. So make sure you come back to that. But we didn't use any complicated platform of any kind. You didn't do 500,000 slides with pictures of your family and where you have traveled the world, right? So we made it really simple for them to actually show up as well, didn't we?
Yeah, and speaking of slides, so when I started running workshops the first time, or like multi-day events, I also didn't use any slides. Then I signed up with a different business mentor who uses slides, and I thought, oh, I have to follow his advice, and I have to create slides. And you say this, Angela, you teach us this, and you say, well, when you have slides, it's like you're building a wall between you and the people who are on the other side. So for this masterclass, I didn't use any slides at all, and and as you said, we will go into the presentation next week, but it's like really keeping it simple. Like, don't make it more complicated than it is, and don't try to be someone you are not, because people in the end want to work with you and your energy. And it was actually one of the testimonials I got afterwards, and she said, I've been to so many similar, because I'm not unique in what I'm doing in any way, but it's like been to so many seminars. She's following a lot of other influencers, and she said, but the big difference, what I see, the big difference is your voice and the way that you're doing it, and that is so important. So keep it simple. People don't want complicated. Simplicity is like the word of 2024. Keep it simple, and it doesn't have to be complicated at all.
You don't need any complicated kind of platform. We run it on Zoom. We run it on Zoom meetings. The most simple. Everybody learns Zoom. That is why I love Zoom. I know there is a lot of talk about the fine print, right? But the thing is, during the pandemic, everybody was forced to use Zoom, which means everybody recognized themselves. They feel confident and comfortable joining a Zoom. It's not complicated. That is why we run this on Zoom. There is massive amount of webinars platforms out there that is amazing. So I'm not kind of burning that down, but we use Zoom because it's simple. Okay, it's really, really simple. And then, of course, if we look at the slides, so running masterclasses, you don't need all this complicated slides. You can actually do like Josephine did, no slides. It's not like slides is a bad thing, but we focus too much on them. That is the problem. So you end up confused where to share. You end up reading from the slides. You end up trying to make the slides perfect instead of you speaking to your audience, which means they actually going to prevent you from closing sales, even if they are fantastic, because you focus too much on them. And so even if
maybe as an example, sorry that I interrupted, but one of my clients, she had attended a multi-day event with someone who used slides, who is a specialist on that area. And she said she read the slides like as they would read them, the people who watched them. And she was like, why does she need to read from them? Shouldn't she be the specialist? So if you're using the slides wrong, it can actually take down your authority and not show you as the expert that you actually are, because you might come across as not confident.
And it's not that we are not burning slides. Slides can be amazing. I mean, you see 9-day workshop where people use slides the entire time. That is amazing. But there is a difference between getting focused on them and think they are the key and just throw them out or have a couple of them. So you go back and forward and actually enjoying your time with your audience, because you want to remove anything that creates any kind of barrier for people to sign up, to join, to experience you, and for you to teach. Simplicity. Because I think that is one of the things that people think it needs to be so complicated. As soon as you say webinar, masterclass, oh my God, I need to do this, I need to do that. No, you don't. You do not need any of those. Those are add-ons. You can add those later on the journey. You can recreate and you can kind of build whatever. But in the beginning, you don't want to create barriers for people to actually experience you. And that is why I'm not a fan of slides. Even if I use slides in some webinars. That is kind of people that already know me. I could use massive amount of slides, but I don't get focused on them, that those should be the ones that is going to make this audience buy from me or not. No, it's not the key point. So the key was simplicity from start to finish. How people experienced Josephine, how she showed up, the way that they could sign up, the way that they could show up, and of course the sales process, how simple we made the sales process. We're not going to go into that, right? Any last words that you want to talk about when it comes to the lead generation part of your masterclass, Josephine, the keys?
I think lead generation is often just looked at, from the start, from the 3 weeks before until the masterclass, but it actually continues all the way through. It continues until the end, and it ain't over until it's over. So one person actually signed up, joined our program 1 minute before we closed cart. But there were also many who didn't join, right? And those are still our leads. Those already signed up once and said hell yes, right? And that lead kind of nurture process will continue, because when you run your second and third and fourth masterclass, because not everyone is ready to sign up the first time you run something, but they are still there. And as you said in the beginning, when you said we got 350 for the very first time we ran this masterclass, for the very first time we did this offer, that will increase if we continue as we have done, if we continue to keep it simple. So it's not like, well, I got one thing right and that's it, because we need to continue the process. And do not think that lead generation is just something, during a 3-week period. It continues.
Absolutely. And one thing that you actually mentioned, the sign up, I see so many people not doing lead generation the same day as the webinar. That is going to be your biggest sign up. It's the biggest mistake in lead generation that you do when it comes to consistency. It's not to invite people the same day as the webinars. Okay. And so never ever forget that. Always invite people, post everywhere, send out an extra email, do whatever you can do that day, because there will be a lot of people signing up the same day. So that was a good point. So I hope this was valuable for you. So write those things down: the message, the consistency, simplicity. Those are going to be keys to generating a lot of leads in 2024. And before you leave, I want to mention that next week we're going to talk more about Josephine's the presentation in itself, the masterclass in itself, how that we did it so successful, what was the keys. And because the way that people have been doing them, especially during the pandemic, it just doesn't cut it anymore. Okay, there is too many changes, and that is why you may have been having a webinar that have been converting really well, and now it turns into cricket. So make sure, block your calendar, join us next week. And I have a free training coming up, the Sell with Webinars Evolution training. It's a free training. I'm going to share the link below this video. So make sure you sign up. It's in 2 weeks from now. So it's a live. So make sure that you join. And we're going to talk about how to fill, how to execute, and how to sell with the webinar. And the biggest changes you must do to convert clients from a webinar, masterclass, or any kind of virtual events in 2024. So make sure that you sign up. And thank you so much, Josephine, for being with me here today. And you're going to be with me next week as well. We're going to continue talk about your workshop. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everyone that have been watching. And make sure, click on the link and join. And I will see you next week. So take care, everyone. Bye-bye.